little bit over 2 years ago, this was my face. Not too different from what I look like now, but on the inside, I was dying every second. In today's video, I wanted to go back a little bit in time and tell you my story on how I discovered that I had anxiety and how I managed to beat it. So for this, we have to get back in time a little bit when everything started. And you'll probably relate to what I'm going to say right now back in 2020 when COVID happened. COVID brought so many mental health issues for so many young people because it kind of stopped us from being able to be young and like enjoy life. But back in 2020, I started university. At the same time, COVID started happening. When I started university, I had just about 2 weeks of normal classes before classes got completely shut down and we had to stay at home to work. And at first it seemed like a really cool thing, right? You're at home, you can do whatever you want. But I quickly understood how bad the situation was when after only maybe a week, I was already like feeling like shit. I was not able to really focus, to really put myself into like work mode for 8 hours a day in front of a computer, like in your room. You wake up like 10 minutes before classes start, you just sit down and you're like half awake, like you struggle to write things down, your brain's not working. You're not even with your family. Everybody's stuck at home and you're not even with your family. Like I had no social contact for this time. It really got to me. I started feeling purposeless really quickly. The reason is pretty simple and you might also relate with this. I didn't have really an end goal in mind. I didn't know why I was doing university for. So it was a real struggle for me to put myself 8 hours a day through the pain of like being on my computer watching a class that I was not really interested in for a goal that was non-existent. I had no plans for the future. I didn't know what I was doing this for. I didn't have a job perspective, a career or something that I wanted to do. I was just vaguely interested into the subject, so that's why I chose this. If you're interested into what I chose, it was actually like economics and politics. And it was really hard for me to go all in on this thing where I had no plans for the future. So really quickly, I started like doing other things instead of going to class. I created a YouTube channel, which is not this one. It was a YouTube channel speaking about personal finance. I actually got some pretty decent success with it. It was pretty cool. I really enjoyed the subject of personal finance, investing and things like that. And I also love creating content. So I was like, okay, let's just create a YouTube channel on this topic and see where it gets me. And as much as this was super interesting to do and I had some success with it, it was working well. The issue was I was not following classes anymore. I was skipping class at home when you were supposed to follow classes at home, which doesn't really make sense. Like this is such an absurd situation. Now that I can see the situation from an outside perspective, it seems so stupid. Like you're going to class, but you're at home, but you don't want to be in class, so you do something else at home. Like this was such an absurd situation. I hope we'll never get something similar like that ever again in our lives because this was so fucking stupid. And yeah, so I spent most of my time on the YouTube channel, working, doing things, doing my own research and things like that. So of course, after an entire year of university, I failed. Wow, such a surprise. I miserably failed my exams, had really bad grades, and felt like shit because of it, because I was like, oh, well, I worked on other things, so it's completely my fault, which was the case. Like, I don't blame anyone else for my failure, it's just that I didn't work on it. But at this point in time, we got a little bit of a situation update, and they said that maybe for next year, we'll be able to go to class back again. So I was like, let's just try it once more. Because at that point I was pretty certain that the reason why I failed university was because of the COVID situation. I thought the fact that I was staying at home was the reason why I was so unmotivated and things like that. Now, since the time passed and I've had time to analyze all of these things, I know that this was not the case at all. The reason why I failed university was, first of all, my fault completely. I didn't want to work on these things. But also the second issue was that I was not able to see myself doing this, as I said before, for 6 years with no like end perspective on it. I didn't know what I was doing this for. So of course, how can you motivate yourself to do something that doesn't really exist in your mind, right? And this was the start of the second year of university. And this is also the start of my mental health decline. I really quickly understood that something was wrong in the second year. I was feeling worse, even though we were able to go to classes, we were able to see people, but I had really like a lot of issues connecting with those people. I was like, we're so different. They don't like the same things as I do. They don't act the same way that I do. Like we had so little in common. I had a really tough time to identify with these people. And classes were the same. I was redoing the same classes, so it was even more boring since I already kind of saw the subjects but didn't really work on them. So like I know them without really knowing them, if you see what I mean. So yeah, my mental health started declining and I started feeling weird symptoms that I've never heard of before. Also, you have to understand something about me. I've never had any mental health issues before that point. I was not really even aware of what anxiety was. I knew a little bit about depression. I was like, yeah, that's people being sad. But like anxiety, I was like, is that people being stressed? What does that mean? I don't really know, right? So when I started having these weird symptoms, and if you want to listen a little bit to what they were, they might seem really weird when you first hear about them. Have you ever had like eye floaters? So like these, when you look at really bright surfaces that are like maybe a surface that's only white and you look around with your eyes, sometimes you can see something floating there. It looks like a little bit of a string or web or even an insect, something that passes through your vision. These are bacteria that you have inside of your eyes that are always there, but you're not supposed to really see them since your body isn't like trying to see them, if you see what I mean. It's supposed to look at the thing you're looking at. But I started seeing eye floaters everywhere, and mainly was in winter, so every single time I was turning my head around or moving my eyes, I saw dozens of those things going through my vision. And I was like, what the hell is that? What the fuck is going on? And I thought something was wrong with me, but I didn't really like try to find a solution immediately. I was like, okay, this is just something happening. It's gonna get better over time and I won't get this issue anymore. But then I started getting other symptoms. I was consistently tired. It was impossible for me to focus on anything. I started feeling weird in the stomach. It was hurting. I started feeling lumps in my body, where in places where I didn't like ever feel lumps before, like on my wrist, in my arms, on my neck. My throat was so small, like it was hard sometimes to breathe. I had issues like that. And over time, I started feeling really scared. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Am I sick? Is there something like bad happening to me right now? And also you have to understand something else, is that when I was a child, I had like trauma with people of my family getting really sick, like severely sick. And I have a bad history in my family of people dying from really weird like illnesses and diseases that are really rare and hard to cure, sometimes incurable. So my mind directly went to this and was like, okay, man, I'm having symptoms of this kind of disease. Oh, this is this disease. Oh, this is that. And I started like feeling completely paranoid about this kind of topics. And so I started getting more anxious about the symptoms that now I know come from anxiety. So I started getting more anxious because I was anxious. So you can see like the circle that I was going through. It got worse and worse and worse. At some point I started having panic attacks. So if you guys have never had panic attacks or anything like that, so it's pretty much like completely incapacitates you to do anything. It's really weird. I never had that before in my life. So I was lying in bed crying because I thought I was dying. I was taking the train, I was crying, like I was trying to hide it from people, right? But I was crying because I thought I was dying. I stopped going to class because I thought I was going to die. Like this, I stopped all good habits, like sports, seeing friends, doing things like that, because I was such in a bad state mentally and I didn't understand like anything at that point. It was really hard for me to give myself a little space to think. I was always in a constant state of panic. And I remember completely, this was back in summer at that point, that I was still feeling this way. I stopped going to class, stopped seeing everyone. It was a really tough place for me. Even my girlfriend, like I was trying to act normal around her and like not tell her what was going on, because I didn't really know what was going on too. And I didn't want to scare her or feel weak or look weak in front of her or whatever. She realized that something was wrong, and we talked about this afterwards once I realized what was going on and I took the actions to get better. And she told me that she thought I was going to, like, I didn't like her anymore. I didn't want to be with her anymore. Like, she thought I was going to break up with her because I was acting so weird. So you can imagine how, even if I was trying to hide it, this was how she perceived it. So imagine, to the people I was not really trying to hide it from, they were like, what the fuck is going on with this guy? But it was also at that time that I realized that I was having anxiety. I was experiencing what's called anxiety. The way I discovered that I had anxiety was by complete randomness while watching a YouTube video from Hamza. It was the first ever YouTube video that I watched about self-improvement, most likely. And I remember very clearly it was a Hamza video speaking about mental health and how young people are living this situation with COVID. And I was like, wow, the fuck, I'm relating so much to what the guy is saying. Is that possible that maybe I might be experiencing something similar? And of course it was completely the case. I realized, oh my god, what the fuck, I'm experiencing anxiety. Why am I feeling this way? Why do I have mental health issues where I'm always the happy guy, the smiling guy, the very friendly guy? Why am I experiencing fucking anxiety right now? Is there something else? Like, is there something I can do about it? And I started watching other things, other YouTube videos from Hamza. I started listening to the Andrew Huberman podcast, where I learned a lot about mental health issues, how to treat them, how to like the difference between treating the symptoms and the cause of anxiety, things like that. And it got better over time. I started meditating, journaling, deep breathing, going in nature, doing sports back again, because this helps a shit ton with mental health. And also the biggest thing that made, in my opinion, one of the biggest difference in my anxiety journey was the fact that I understood that I was going in a direction that didn't make sense for me. Like I had no purpose at that time. I was going to university because my parents told me I needed to go to university and I had no other plans. So I was like, okay, let's just go to university. I was purposeless at that point. I realized at that point, okay, I need to find a goal in my life. I need to find something that I need to strive for all the time so that I can not distract myself from these thoughts of anxiety, but really like feel normal again. And that's exactly what I did. Guess what I did? I dropped out of university and I started working on myself. I started finding things that I was more interested in, things that made sense to me, not to other people around me. And I guess it brought us here. My purpose is to make this kind of videos, to make people aware of these issues like anxiety, depression, mental health issues for young people, and also the importance of self-improvement for young people overall. Whether you are someone that has anxiety and depression and mental health issues overall, if you don't have a sense of purpose, if you want to make more money, like whatever your goal is, self-improvement is the answer to that. And I understood that because I had to go through this bad period of my life, this bad experience. And I really hope that I reach people, like with this video, for example, that have not experienced these issues yet, so that they understand like, oh fuck, I need to take care of my mental health and of myself so that I don't end up like this guy did when he told me his story. That's pretty much the main point of this video. And if you already are experiencing mental health issues like anxiety and depression, I now coach young people to beat these issues so that they get like their lives back pretty much. And they can do the same things that I did, which is take the control over their life, do the things they want to do, get back on track, and live life to the fullest. I mean, that's pretty much the entire message of this video. How I discovered that I had anxiety by going on self-improvement and like trying to research as much as I can in self-improvement. This is how I discovered I had anxiety. And this is also how I managed to beat anxiety myself. So if you guys are interested and you want to get coached on these issues, go and click on the first link in the description. And otherwise, if you don't have the money for a coaching program, don't worry at all. Subscribe to the channel and go watch other videos. I make a lot of videos on this kind of topics so I can help young people get better. I hope you guys enjoyed. And I'm seeing you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.